Brave New World is a novel written by Aldous Huxley in 1932. In it, he describes a new world, with no pain, no wars, no aging, and no fear of death. All of this makes us believe that he writes about an utopia. But is that really the case? The story is set in 632 AF, or Anno Ford. In this brave new world, Henry Ford is considered almost like a god, and he has essentially replaced the Christian God. All over the world, we see new churches that give importance to science, technology, and machines. The old cross has now become a letter T, to symbolize the Ford Model T, the first affordable car. The new calendar starts in 1908, the year of this car's release. One of the reasons why Ford is so important in the brave new world is because of his principles of assembly line. The assembly line is the manufacturing process that made the economy boom after the Second Industrial Revolution. The principles upon which the assembly line is based are mass production, homogeneity, predictability, and consumerism. The Brave New World is the embodiment of these principles, and it follows them thanks to methods of psychoanalysis. Freud is also considered a godlike figure in this world, and the world state uses his philosophy to condition their people and to bring happiness to them. The world is governed by the world state that divided the world in 10 sections with a controller each. The world state's objective is to guarantee a world with no wars or suffering. To achieve happiness among all people, the government controls them from before they are even born. Thanks to new eugenics discoveries, the world state is able to condition their citizens by growing their fetuses in pods. Having a baby normally is considered savage-like because in doing so, the way the child will turn out to be is only determined by chance. Nonetheless, sexual activity is encouraged and incentivized, as all desires must be fulfilled to achieve happiness. Being alone is believed to not bring happiness, so monogamy and studying, all things that are done alone, are either banned or heavily judged upon. The population is divided in predetermined classes, all sorted by intelligence and assigned before birth. These classes are alphas, betas, gammas, deltas, and epsilons. The first two govern or manage government agencies, while the last three do all the physical work. All classes believe that they are the superior one and don't feel jealousy. Everyone is conditioned every night by what they call hypnopedia, recorded slogans that they hear every night to believe what the world state wants them to. Everyone is happy in their condition because of their intelligence. The lower classes are incredibly stupid because the government deprives them of oxygen while they are babies. They're basically retarded. This new world is based upon ideals of community, identity, and stability. Therefore, everyone belongs to everyone, meaning there is no traditional family, no marriage, no assigned surname, and everyone must be social and happy to buy things. Marginalized from society, we see those called savages that live like they were still in the 1940s and, paradoxically, are the only people on Earth who still read books. The savages live in reserves, where citizens of all classes go to visit them and see how they live. After hearing the description of the Brave New World, one might think that it is a dystopian future, but you have to admit one could still make the case that the Brave New World is a utopia. Everyone is still happy, although happiness doesn't have the same meaning that it has today. So still, the question remains, is the Brave New World a utopia or a dystopia?
In this context, Bernardo Marx and Lenina Crown, a fellow technician recognized for her beauty and sexual ability towards her colleagues at the DHC, meet. After also falling in love with Bernardo Marx, her vaguely monogamous attitude emerges, which leads her to frequent multiple companions but at very long distances. This, together with the anomalous behavior of Bernardo Marx, who due to a defect during the development of the fetus, tends to prefer solitude and to refuse the use of soma, makes the state authorities suspicious. Bernardo and Lenina decide to go on holiday to a reserve in New Mexico, where he, thanks to the help of their friend Helmholtz, they discover that Bernardo's boss, given his behavior not in line with government standards, wants to exile him to Iceland. However, during their stay in New Mexico, they encounter a native population of savages who 20 years earlier had hosted Linda, a former missing inhabitant of the world state who also came on holiday with Bernardo Marx's boss, Thomas Tomakin, with whom he had mistakenly a son named John. John, coming into contact with wild population since he was little, acquired their mentality. He learns to read with his mother's help from a manual of handling fetuses and from a collection of Shakespeare's works that he often quotes. John and Linda's life, although outside the world state, is not easy due to Linda's mentality on polygamous sex, which leads John to believe that his mother is seen as a prostitute by the other savages, who despite their revered monogamy often present to her. Both ask Bernardo and Lenina to return to being part of the world state, even though they are aware of the fact that their completely different mentality will lead them to live in hardship. Once returned as the property of Bernardo Marx, the latter takes revenge on Tomakin, who resigns when he presents him with his naturally conceived son John. John, now a member of the New World as he had predicted, does not feel completely integrated, because he does not share the superficial mentality of their inhabitants, while still remaining fascinated by technological progress. At the same time, he finds himself uncomfortable towards Lenina, for whom he feels love and sexual attraction, unlike her, who sees him only as another partner. The sudden death of his mother due to an excessive dose of soma leads him to show his emotionality, reaching the deathbed and crying desperately. Out of anger, he incites the Delta class members to stop taking soma by throwing away their rations, finally attracting the attention of Mustafa Mond, the resident controller of Western Europe. Bernardo, John and Helmholtz, recalled by him, are accused of subversive behavior, which they will have to pay for with exile from the brave new world. John, left alone, retreats to a lighthouse, where he leads a life of isolation and purification from temptation by practicing self-flagellation. This behavior intrigues the population of the New World, who will make it an obsession towards John. So much so that, suddenly attacked by a crowd also led by Lenina, prey to the effects of soma that will make him participate in an orgy from which, bitterly regretting it, he will decide to resolve the next morning by hanging himself.
Brave New World and 1984 by George Orwell stand as seminal works of dystopian literature, each presenting a chilling vision of a future society dominated by oppressive regimes. While there isn't direct evidence to suggest that Huxley's Brave New World directly inspired Orwell's 1984, it's clear that both authors were influenced by similar societal and political trends of their time, as well as by each other's works to some extent. They knew each other well. When Orwell was at Eton, Huxley was his French school teacher for a year. As a literary critic of some repute, Orwell has written extensively on Huxley's work, including on Brave New World. While Brave New World and 1984 offer distinct visions of dystopia and differ in their approaches to social critique, they share various features. Themes of control. Both Brave New World and 1984 portray societies where governments wield absolute control over every aspect of citizens' lives. In Brave New World, this control is achieved through a combination of genetic engineering, psychological conditioning, and the use of a pleasure-inducing drug called soma. The citizens are conditioned from birth to accept their predetermined roles in society without question. In 1984, control is exerted through fear, surveillance, and propaganda. The party monitors citizens' actions and even their thoughts through the pervasive presence of telescreens and the thought police. Suppression of individuality. A central theme in both novels is the suppression of individuality in favor of conformity. In Brave New World, citizens are categorized into castes and conditioned to adhere to strict social norms, erasing any sense of individual identity. The society values stability and uniformity above all else, leading to the marginalization of those who deviate from the norm. Similarly, in 1984, the party seeks to eliminate individuality by erasing personal histories, controlling language through newspeak, and enforcing conformity to the party's ideology. Manipulation of truth. Both Brave New World and 1984 depict governments that manipulate truth and information to maintain power and control over their citizens. In Brave New World, the government controls knowledge by censoring literature and art, conditioning citizens to accept the state's version of reality, and promoting the use of soma to escape from unpleasant truths. In 1984, the party rewrites history, alters facts, and disseminates propaganda to manipulate public opinion and suppress dissent. The distortion of truth serves to reinforce the government's authority and perpetuate its regime of control in both novels. Themes of resistance. Despite the pervasive oppression depicted in both novels, characters in Brave New World and 1984 exhibit acts of resistance against the ruling regimes. In Brave New World, characters like Bernard Marx and John the Savage rebel against the values and norms of the world state, questioning the cost of sacrificing individual freedom for societal stability. In 1984, Winston Smith challenges the party's authority by engaging in acts of rebellion and seeking to preserve his own sense of humanity and autonomy. Authorial inspiration. Both Aldous Huxley and George Orwell drew inspiration from the social and political trends of their time to create their dystopian worlds. Huxley, influenced by his background in science and interest in psychology, envisioned a future society where advances in technology and behaviorism would shape human existence. Orwell, drawing from his experiences during the Spanish Civil War and his observations of totalitarian regimes, crafted a chilling portrayal of a world dominated by oppression and surveillance.
Drugs make you confused and they make you lose the contact with reality. You are now more capable of thinking lucidly about things in your life, and you lose the reasons between your actions and your personality. Furthermore, they make your brain lose neurons. The drug described in the book is Soma. Soma is an euphoric drug that everyone is forced to take since birth. The name Soma derives from a Vedic ritual drink. Soma has low side effects. Soma is also used to restrain collective movements by being diffused into the air. These drugs make you feel only happiness, but in this way it causes any other type of emotion. This drug generates a strong addiction. The author also wants to explain that in a world so completely dedicated to work and happiness, the identity, the depth, and the beauty of life are lost. People are treated inhumanly, like robots. This drug represents also doing something for irrational reasons. In the same way, workers in the book are forced to do their jobs and to like them. In fact, the children in the book are brainwashed either chemically or through childhood trauma. For example, they are given a shock when they get close to flowers. Huxley was actually a strong supporter of drugs, as well as polygamy and many of the aspects present in the book. However, his fear, which inserted in the book, is that politics used all these things to create dictatorship where men are forced to do things they don't want to do. For Huxley, it was also important the mystical exploration of man and his interior, and the dictatorship wouldn't have allowed that. Huxley will also talk about drugs in the future books such as The Doors of Perception or The Island.